What if I told you that the most important stories of our past, entire civilizations, discoveries, and philosophies, may have been permanently erased by something as simple as a fire, or as calculated as an emperor's decree? Today, we're diving into the chilling truth of how history, as we know it, is often not the full story. How facts have vanished, how cultures were silenced, and how the world's past may be far more complex than we've ever been taught. Let's start with a question. How do we even know what we know about history? The answer lies in something called primary sources: letters, artifacts, diaries, inscriptions, maps, first-hand accounts from the people who lived it. They are our time machines. But here's the catch. They're fragile, burnable, erasable, and most importantly, selectively preserved. Take the Library of Alexandria, for instance, one of the greatest losses of human knowledge in recorded history. But it wasn't just Greek philosophy and local science. This place aimed to collect scrolls from every major civilization the empire encountered: Egyptian, Babylonian, Persian, Indian, even early Chinese writings. When ships docked in Alexandria, officials often took their manuscripts, copied them, and added them to the archive. In essence, it was the ancient world's internet, a central hub of global knowledge. Then it all burned. Whether from Caesar's siege, religious zealots, or political instability, the result was the same: up to 400,000 scrolls lost. That's hundreds of thousands of documents, mathematical theories, medicinal recipes, maps of uncharted lands, possibly even records of lost civilizations, gone forever. Psychological research tells us that humans are biased toward survival stories. When we hear of losses, our minds fill in the gaps, often in exaggerated or mythical ways. But what if some of those myths were real, just buried in ash? And it's not just fire. Conquest is perhaps an even more effective historical eraser. When the Spanish arrived in the Americas, they didn't just defeat the Aztecs and the Maya. They destroyed their codices, the written histories of entire civilizations. Only 4 Maya codices are known to survive today. Just 4. Why? Because history is power. If you control the story, you control the culture. You decide who were the heroes, who were the savages, and who deserves to be remembered. That brings us to a key point. Empires have not just used military conquest to erase history. They've used diplomacy, propaganda, and cultural assimilation. The Roman Empire was a master of this. They didn't just conquer you, they Romanized you. They'd replace local deities with Roman ones, convert native writing systems, and encourage the elite to adopt Roman customs and language. Over time, a people's original identity would fade, and with it, their story. This isn't just ancient history either. In the British Empire, colonial officials would often dismiss indigenous knowledge as primitive, refuse to document it, or worse, actively destroy oral traditions and ban native languages. Think about it. How many oral histories were never written down? How many were lost when elders were silenced or displaced? Now add another layer: lack of interconnectedness. We take global communication for granted today, but imagine a time when a single ocean could separate a discovery from ever reaching the rest of the world. A perfect example? The legendary and still controversial case of Zheng He and the Chinese treasure fleets. In the early 1400s, under the Ming Dynasty, China launched massive exploratory voyages. These weren't simple sailing trips. They were floating cities. Some of Zheng He's ships were estimated to be over 400 feet long, dwarfing Columbus's fleet by several magnitudes. Some historians believe these voyages may have reached the Americas, Australia, or even circumnavigated the globe decades before European explorers. But here's the tragedy. When Emperor Yongle died, his successor, Emperor Hongxi, halted all voyages. The records were systematically destroyed. Maps, logs, and official documents were burned in what was essentially a bureaucratic purge. So when you open a history book, you're not reading a complete story. You're reading a curated collection, sometimes deliberately curated. Let's talk about Herodotus, often called the father of history. His works give us priceless insights into the ancient world. But let's be real, he wasn't neutral. His writings favored Greek perspectives, often portrayed Persians as exotic or barbaric, and included plenty of exaggeration. He wasn't a historian in the modern sense. He was a storyteller with a political lens. And he's not alone. Much of what we know from ancient Rome comes from authors like Tacitus or Livy, who had political motives, often glorifying Rome and its values while demonizing others. Think about that. If your only record of a culture comes from their enemy, can you trust it? Let's also touch on medieval Europe, where the church held the pen, and anything deemed heretical or pagan was destroyed or rewritten. The Druidic traditions of the Celts, largely erased. African empires like Mali or Great Zimbabwe, their histories were often dismissed by European colonizers as myths. Only now are we rediscovering their sophistication through archaeology. But what happens when an entire worldview is lost? The Indus Valley Civilization had a writing system we still can't fully decipher. Imagine if we could read what they wrote. We might learn their politics, trade routes, religious beliefs, entire histories waiting to be unlocked. But because no Rosetta Stone exists for their script, we are staring at walls of undecipherable symbols that whisper stories we can't hear. And it all leads to this unsettling truth. Much of what we think of as history is actually what survived. So what didn't survive? Could there have been female philosophers in ancient Mesopotamia whose works were lost to conquest? Did Polynesian navigators cross oceans with precision techniques that were never recorded? Did forgotten African empires chart the stars or build machines we've yet to understand? We may never know. But what we can do is question the narrative. Look for the silences. Study the margins. And perhaps most importantly, listen to the voices that were nearly erased. Because history doesn't just belong to the conquerors, it belongs to all of us. And the more we uncover what was lost, the closer we come to the truth. If this opened your eyes, give it a like, hit subscribe, and ring that bell, so you don't miss the stories still hidden beneath the ashes. You'll find sources, deeper dives, and more forgotten history in the description below. And follow us on socials for updates between the ruins. Thanks for watching, and keep questioning the past. And one final thought. History isn't just found in books. It's in songs, symbols, ruins, and even DNA. Every culture, no matter how small, carries a piece of the human puzzle. The search for lost history is far from over.